Jude Bellingham is transforming the face of Real Madrid. He's signed for huge money in the summer, creating huge expectations, but he has delivered on them so far. 5 goals in 4 games is an amazing return. He's playing a slightly different position to what we're used to, which has changed the way Madrid play. Let's explore that and why it's working so well. Let's start with this graphic from our friends at Opta, which highlights how differently he is playing so far. On the right, we have Borussia Dortmund, Jude Bellingham, and on the left, we have Real Madrid so far. There's 2 key differences I want to point you to. First of all, the chance creation from one to the other is massively enhanced at Real Madrid. And what goes hand in hand with that is the fact that his defensive contributions at Real Madrid have been reduced significantly compared to what he was doing in Germany. And there is a very simple reason for that. He's now playing in a more advanced role. Let's plot that out on the board then and show you exactly what that looks like. This is Real Madrid's starting 11 for the opening game of the season at Athletic Club in Bilbao. Here is Jude Bellingham right here at the tip of a diamond in a 4-4-2 shape. Now, he used to play deeper for Borussia Dortmund, of course, and now he's playing a bit further forward. We've got other changes in this team too. Fran Garcia making his bow on the left-hand side. Eder Militao sadly sustained an injury in this game and won't be seen for some time. Lunin was already standing in goal because Courtois had torn his ACL, and the midfield looks pretty different too. Oh, and there's no Karim Benzema. So, a complete change for Real Madrid, but we shouldn't be too surprised by that. First of all, Carlo Ancelotti is a very relaxed manager when it comes to shapes and systems. He's more than happy to change things up. He's more than happy to give his players a relatively basic blueprint and say, go and problem solve. He's the complete opposite in that respect to Pep Guardiola, who choreographs quite a lot of his different moves. And then the other thing to note is, while this is different to what Real Madrid used last year, which was a 4-3-3, if you go ahead and just take Bellingham and put him there, and pull these guys a little bit wider, well, it kind of looks like a 4-3-3, doesn't it? So the changes are relatively limited when you push the player from the tip of the diamond into the box, and that's exactly what Madrid are doing with Bellingham. So Bellingham is in part behaving like a number 9. He's definitely doing some striker things, but before we drill into that, I just want to draw your attention back to this 11 one more time, and notice who isn't there. No Luka Modric, no Toni Kroos. This is the opening weekend of the season. Real Madrid go to one of the sternest and toughest away venues in the entirety of Spain, and they rock up without their experienced heads. They go with the all-new midfield quadrant of Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Fede Valverde, and Bellingham at the tip. I think this is a statement. We've long prophesied the midfield revolution in Madrid. They've gradually moved Casemiro out of the team, and Modric and Kroos obviously get a bit older, play fewer minutes. They'll still play their part, but playing this midfield on the opening weekend, I think, is the statement to say this Madrid is different. And guess who's right at the heart of it all? Jude Bellingham. So let's go back to that 5 goals in 4 games thing, because that is absolutely amazing and we need to look at how that's happening. So let's load up some shot maps and again compare Jude Bellingham at Dortmund to Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid. We'll start, as always, with Dortmund. 65 shots resulting in 7 goals in league play last season, and look at the locations of the shots. This very much paints the picture of a midfielder who has license to break into the box and license to attack and go wherever the game takes him. There's no specific area that he hits. There's no specific part of the box that he goes to. There's not even really a specific area that he shoots from. He just shoots from varying angles and distances. They come all down the left and the right of the box and from outside of the box too. That is very, very different to what we've seen so far at Real Madrid. This shot map, again, it's a small sample size, but it's pretty obvious how they're using him. This is a striker's shot map. He already has the 5 goals. 4 of them have come from extremely close to the goal, on the 6-yard line or just outside of it, and they're all in very central locations. There's barely anything from wide or from long shots either, and the average distance of the shot from goal has dipped significantly, roughly 6 yards per attempt. Now, if you've seen the goals, you'll know that they are indeed strikers' goals. It's not just the shot map that tells you that. This one closest to the goal, that was Getafe's goalkeeper spilling the ball out. Who was first on it, on their toes? Jude Bellingham sweeping home the rebound. One of these was a header from a deep left-wing cross, and another was a right-wing cross that came into the box, scrabbled around, and Bellingham managed to scuff it home. Again, these are scrappy goals, but these are number 9 goals. So he is in part performing the role of a striker, even though he's playing at the tip of a diamond. So let's support that even further. Let's take it away from the shots and take a look at some of the movements and passes that he's playing. Here we've got an example against Athletic Club where he's making the run in behind the defence on the last shoulder as Vinicius tries to play the slip ball in. He is making the number 9 run. He hits the byline, collects and moves the ball back inside. Then we have another example even earlier in the game. The ball moves forward to him and he, first time, flips the ball over the defensive line into the run of Rodrigo, who runs in behind. Now, dare I say it, that is a bit Karim Benzema, isn't it? Let's take a look at this screenshot and look at Vinicius now instead. And you'll notice that He's a bit more central than maybe you'd expect to see him. Vinicius for a long time has been a player who likes to receive the ball wide on the left, take on his man, take on the fullback, do lots of dribbling. Here he is playing a relative centre-forward role, and this is interesting because what Jude Bellingham has done is change Vinicius and Rodrigo's position somewhat. In the 4-4-2 diamond, Vinicius now has to play as more of a central forward, along with Rodrigo. And we'll take a look at this past map here when they played Almeria. This was game 2 of the season. Yes, it's still skewed over towards the left-hand side, but rather than Vinicius receiving very far to the left, he's almost in this half space. Rodrigo is more central, but Vinicius is creeping in and in and in because he has to play as one of 2 up front while Bellingham drops in and then moves between them. And what we've got here is touches for Vinicius starting to leak towards the centre of the pitch. You see here, on average, 7.7 fewer touches per 90 Vinicius is taking in this big red area here, 4 fewer here, and 3.5 fewer here. And they're starting to leak towards the centre of the pitch. So we're seeing the evidence that as this formation takes shape, Vinicius' role is starting to change. That's not necessarily a problem, I'm sure he'll figure it out, but it's taking him away from his bread and butter over the last 3 years and developing and evolving his game in ways that we probably didn't foresee, and it's because of Jude Bellingham's presence in the centre. So similar to in the first game when Modric and Kroos were left on the bench in favour of Madrid's new midfield 4, I think this tells a story and it makes a statement. In the post-Benzema world, where this guy was running the attack for 10 straight years, they were going to have to replace him somehow, some way. I don't think we expected it to become this. I think what we expected was for Vinicius to become the focal point of the attack from the left-hand side and a striker to fill in up front. But that hasn't necessarily happened. Bellingham is now, I think, the main man. And that's not a disrespectful thing to say about Vinicius Jr., who's still a really important part of this team. Without Bellingham, none of this works. And I would bet that they wouldn't even be doing any of it if it wasn't for the fact that Jude Bellingham could come in and play this role immediately. And what that says to you is that Carlo Ancelotti holds him in the highest regard. So in some ways, it's no surprise that he's already changed the face of Real Madrid.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.